The Miami Dolphins take on the Green Bay Packers this Thursday night, Thanksgiving football, in the most important game of this season. The Dolphins sit at 5-6 and are looking to get back to 500 as they take on the 8-3 Green Bay Packers. And as I mentioned, it's probably the toughest game on our schedule coming up, and it's going to be a chilly night. It's going to be about 20 degrees, it appears, with a chance of snow. So the Dolphins have every possibility to disprove the whole narrative that they can't beat good teams and that they can't play in the cold.
So how dangerous do we believe they'll be when the temperature's going to be 20 degrees? Thank you, Bob.
Tua has never played a game in his career where the temperature was this cold. He's in fact 0-3 with his 3 worst career games when the temperature was below 50.
So hopefully they can do it. I'm here to break it all down, starting with the Dolphins offense. The Dolphins offense is 24th in points per game. The Packers defense is 10th in points allowed. As we've addressed over the past few weeks, that number is definitely skewed due to the games that Tua missed at quarterback. Dolphins offense, since he's returned, has been one of the best in all of football. In terms of the Dolphins rushing attack versus the Packers rushing defense, the Dolphins are 16th in rushing yards per game. The Packers are 13th in rushing yards allowed. Packers have the advantage in this aspect. The Dolphins were running the football with great effect starting in the first Patriots game, and we continued it until after the Buffalo game. And then Alec Ingold got hurt and it's gone down. It was weak against the Patriots. Alec Ingold returned, but he only played, I believe, 9 offensive snaps. So you hope the more they use Ingold in the running game, the better it will look, but it's looked not as good as of lately, and it's something they're going to need to rely upon coming into these important late November and December games. So hopefully, Alec Ingold being on the field for another week, they can look to build on the running game that they established without Tua, because that honestly will help draw those defenders closer to the line of scrimmage, and you can create more room down the field, which we know the Dolphins can take advantage of with Tyreek and Waddle. But the Dolphins, despite not being able to run the ball with success these past 3 weeks, have looked great, and mainly due to their passing attack. But on the running game front, Packers obviously 13th in rushing yards allowed, and they don't necessarily put a lot of resources into stopping the run, but they've got some great players on their defensive front. They got Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, and Rashawn Gary, some of the best linemen in all football. But in terms of the Dolphins passing attack versus the Packers passing defense, the Dolphins are 19th in passing yards per game. The Packers are 10th in passing yards allowed. So once again, Packers have the better numbers, but once again, these stats are slightly skewed due to Tua being out. Dolphins would probably be much higher if Tua had stayed healthy, but he didn't, so that's why they're 19th. But once again, Packers have a great defense. They're 10th in points per game, and then 13th and 10th in yards allowed on the rushing and passing side. So Packers have had a great defense with their new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, and they've run some similar schemes to the Dolphins. Specifically, when it gets to the third downs, they like to do the simulated pressures, which the Dolphins like to do, which is basically they show 6 to 7 potential blitzers. 4 will come, 3 will drop, and you just don't know where they're coming from. And it at times will lead to a free runner despite only rushing 4. And those other 3 people that look like they might come will then drop into coverage. So it causes chaos for the offensive line, and it really challenges their communication in protection. The key, in my opinion, for the Dolphins is to not get to that point where they can easily tee off on you down in, down out. Keep these drives manageable, which is something the Dolphins have done a great job of. They've done a good job of playing mistake-free football and being able to just move the sticks. And when they're at third down, it's not necessarily always like a third and long. They're making third and manageables more often than not, which is a good thing. So that's the key, in my opinion, is to stay out of third and long and play mistake-free football. There's a good chance that this game is going to be an ugly, cold weather football game, and the key to that is just not making mistakes. So just try and not get those penalties, which the Dolphins have done a good job of not doing. Don't make the stupid throws into coverage. Play some clean football. Another note in terms of the Packers defense, they are running a lot of single high coverages. Now, that's probably going to change as they face the Dolphins. The offensive staff has noted it plenty of times that the Dolphins will watch a defense on film, and the way they play basically every other team, they change how they play when they face the Dolphins because of obviously the explosive nature of our offense with Tyreek and Waddle. So the Packers are running a lot of single high coverage, which means there's just one safety up top, and that leaves you vulnerable to the deep shot. So I would expect the Packers to kind of revert to a more two high structure to take away those plays, but if they don't, then look for the Dolphins to take advantage of that. So that's something to look out for. If they play single high at a high enough clip, I expect a big play or two from Tyreek and or Waddle. So to recap, the offensive keys is just to stay on schedule, keep the chains moving as we've been doing these past few weeks. Obviously a much tougher task against this very good Packers defense. Don't beat yourself. This game's likely going to be a tough fought, lower scoring game. And what I mean lower scoring, it's not going to be like the 30 points we've been putting up these past few weeks. It might be a little less because possessions are going to be at a limited, and it's a tough defense in a cold environment. being able to establish the run would be icing on the cake. As I've mentioned, it's struggled these past 3 weeks, but if you can enforce your will with Alec Ingold back into the lineup and make them have to key in on stopping the run, it just opens everything else up, because then we've already had a lot of open windows to throw, but those windows become bigger. Tua had a lot of beautiful throws to Waddle over the middle. Those windows are much bigger if those linebackers are much more fearful of that running game. And the Dolphins have shown that they can establish that. It just hasn't been there the past few weeks. And if they can get that run game going, that's the Dolphins' biggest way of being able to make this a convincing win. If they get the run game established, they're going to be able to pass the ball with ease. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think this is going to be a tough fought game. But if the Dolphins can establish the run early and often, I expect this to be a good win for the Dolphins. Players to watch on the Packers defense. They have a lot of quality players, starting with Kenny Clark, who's been there for a long time. Absolute stud in the middle of the field for them. Devontae Wyatt, I believe a first-round pick out of Georgia for them, has been improving year over year. Jair Alexander, who missed last week, there's a decent chance he doesn't play. I'm filming this on Monday, so I don't have the full injury report, but he's obviously a stud corner for them. It will be a big loss if he's not out there, or a key addition if he is healthy. Rashawn Gary, one of the best pass rushers in football, very underrated. And the Packers don't have a lot of sack numbers. I think their leading sack total is like 4.5, but they're still a good defense, and Rashawn Gary's their best pass rusher. Xavier McKinney, who they signed from the Giants and has been arguably the best safety in football, I think tied for the league in interceptions, has been getting the hands all over the football. And then Quay Walker, linebacker in the middle, also from Georgia. He's made some dumb penalties in primetime, I remember, from seasons past, but when you turn on the film, he's a force in the middle of that field that is decent against the run and the pass. So those are the players to watch for this very good Packers defense. Now on to the Packers offense versus the Dolphins defense. The Packers are 8th in points per game, so a very good offensive total. Dolphins match them up pretty well, being 12th in points allowed. In terms of the rushing attack, the Packers are 3rd in the league in running the football. The Dolphins are 9th in rushing yards allowed. So obviously, Packers have the numbers there. They're a tremendous running team. You turn on the film, they can run the ball very well. Josh Jacobs has been very good, but they have a staple of backs. I think Marshawn Lloyd might have been activated off of IR. So another addition to the running back room. We will need to emphasize being able to stop the run, because if we don't, they will just continue to do it. And as I mentioned for the Dolphins, if you're unable to stop the run, your linebackers are then more keying in on trying to stop that run. And a lot of this passing offense from the Packers, because this comes from a similar tree. The Packers head coach LaFleur obviously comes from the same tree as Mike McDaniel in the Shanahan system. So they love to establish that running game and then get the offensive line running forward, but play action passing off of it and hitting those throwing windows over the linebacker's head. And you turn on the film, they do the same exact thing as the Dolphins in that aspect. And the more you force them to have to stop the run, the easier it is to throw it over those linebackers. So if the Dolphins are able to stop the run pretty convincingly and allow your linebackers to gain more depth in pass coverage, that'll help you close those passing windows. But it's not going to be easy. Obviously, they're 3rd in the league in running the football, so they're a very good running team. It's going to be a tough task, but hopefully the Dolphins are up to it. Going to need to see Zach Sealer, Benito Jones, Deshaun Hand, Calais Campbell all bring their knives and forks to eat on Thanksgiving. In terms of the Dolphins defense against the Packers passing offense, Packers are 11th in passing yards per game. Dolphins are 8th in passing yards allowed. So once again, I mean, from the defensive side to the offensive side, the Packers are basically top 10 in every category, which goes to show the caliber of team they are. They are a very good team. I love to hear an excuse that people will make if the Dolphins manage to beat them. Like, this is a very good team on both sides of the football. They have a triage of receivers between Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, who I believe is going to be out with a concussion, Tucker Kraft, Christian Watson. They just, and there's going to be more people beyond that. Those are the key names to watch, but they have a lot of quality receivers. Josh Jacobs can catch the ball out of the backfield. Jordan Love is obviously a high caliber quarterback that's got paid a lot of money. He can make every throw on the field, very athletic, can push the ball downfield as well. So this Packers team's very good. Where they are maybe just vulnerable is the fact that Jordan Love leads the league, or I think he's 2nd in interceptions with 11, and he hasn't played every single game. So if it was per game, he'd lead the league in interceptions. So hopefully that's an area of emphasis for the Dolphins, is to be able to get an interception or two, because that's what this game's going to come down to, is who makes those plays. People keep asking me on my live streams on TikTok. If you're ever interested, I go live pretty frequently, and I'll answer whatever questions. This has been on the forefront of everybody's mind prior to the Patriots game. games, like, are we going to beat the Packers? And I'm like, I can't confidently say yes or no. I think this game is going to be a tough fought battle that's going to be determined by which team makes those plays. And if we're able to get an interception or two off of Jordan Love, that will likely be all the difference in this outcome. So hopefully they can look to do that. Keys for the defense. The biggest one, in my opinion, is win on the early downs. If they can win on first down and make it second and long, you give yourself such a huge advantage. As I've established, then they really have to key in on passing the ball on second and third and long, and it allows you to not have to worry as much about stopping the run game, which we've already established is very good. Don't allow the explosive plays. As I've mentioned, this game's likely going to be a tough fought battle that's going to be a little lower scoring. Allowing them to score quickly and explosive doesn't do you any favors. I think back to the Dolphins-Bills game where we were doing a good job of making them work for their keep and drive the field, and then they had the explosive touchdown on the running back Ray Davis, which just felt like a gut punch. So if you can limit the explosive plays, keep the teams in it, and it works. It's complementary offensively and defensively. We want to limit the turnovers on offense, don't have quick 3-and-out drives, make their defense stay on the field, give our defense some rest. And then in terms of defense, don't allow explosive plays and make them have easy drives that allow to kind of put the pressure on our offense, forcing them to kind of push the ball downfield when they might not have to. And then make Love make a mistake. As I mentioned, that likely will be all the difference in this game if it's played at the clean clip that the Dolphins need to have a chance to win this football game. So once again, this Packers team is very good offensively and defensively. Players to watch for this Packers offense starts with quarterback one, Jordan Love. As I've mentioned, he's a stud, can make every throw on the field, athletic, but he's prone to making mistakes. Josh Jacobs, one of the best backs in all football. Jaden Reed, who's been probably their top target. I think he leads the team in receiving. Romeo Doubs, as I mentioned, I think will be out with a concussion. Tucker Kraft, been a tight end for them that is doing a great job in this system, being able to receive the football. And then Christian Watson, who's also a very skilled athlete. Time for the prediction. As I've mentioned leading into this game can really go either way. And I don't think you can go wrong either way. Lifetime, I am 31-15 predicting Dolphin games and 8-3 on the year. So my track record this year has been very good, and I'm going to hope that my track record continues as I predict the Miami Dolphins to shock everyone on primetime and beat the Green Bay Packers 20-17 on Thanksgiving. That would be a tremendous day if the Dolphins can pull this one out. Comment your predictions down below. If you guys are interested in the best Dolphins merch out there on the DolphinsDive.com, keep your eyes peeled for Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales that will be running. I appreciate you guys for watching. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. And until next time, fins up.